Hi, I'm Angelique, a writer, director, and creator of the Call Cut Method. It's a tool to shift your frequency, rewrite your inner script, and realign you with the energy of your highest potential. This podcast is your behind the scenes pass to alchemizing that energy. So if you're ready to interrupt the script, reclaim your power, and write your story that you were actually born to live, you're in the right place. Hi, friends. It's me, Angelique, and I am so happy to have you here on this podcast. Something that I have been wanting to do for a long time, but resisted, um, mostly because of my own stories, which we're going to get into. But here we are. And I am so happy to be here. And I am so happy that you are here with me and that we are going to go into these incredible conversations that cover everything from neutralizing energy, 369 method, how neuroplasticity affects the brain and rewiring so that we could tell a better story. There's so much to get into. And I do have some incredible guests that are going to be on this show that they are the most wonderful humans. And I am so excited to share all of this with you. But before we get into any of that, I should explain what is the call cut method? Why did I do it? And why am I out here yapping my face off about it? So, first things first, I have suffered from massive anxiety, panic for years. Okay. This is something that was in my family, but never really manifested in me past my severe dislike of elevators, which I will say I have called cut on a lot of crap, but I do not like elevators and I'm probably never going to like them. So it's okay to have that one thing that's like the non-negotiable. And I think that's the non-negotiable for me. But the rest of it, I have worked very hard to overcome. And my story starts in the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel in about 2009. And I was at a point in my life where, as my best friend would say, I was in the perfect storm. One hit after another, after another, after another. And she lived with me, so she lived this. She saw this in real time. I actually didn't see it and I didn't notice it, but she did. When I finally had the break, which was in the tunnel, she wasn't surprised, but I was. I was so scared because I had never experienced anything like that in my life. I drove through the tunnel and everything was fine until suddenly my hands started to shake. My legs started to shake, that my heart started to race, pound in my chest. I thought it was going to pop out like that little creature from Spaceballs when he popped out of the stomach, you know? I was like, that's it. My heart's gone. It's over. I couldn't pull over because in the tunnel, there's nowhere for you to go. So, as somebody who does not like the feeling of being trapped, I was trapped and I had no sense of what was happening to me, how to get out of it. And I thought, this is it. You're going to die. And of all the places you're dying in a tunnel, which was not exactly how I mapped it out. But there I was. When I got outside of the tunnel, I couldn't go home. I was headed to set and I was acting in this role. So it wasn't like I could be like, oh, hey, sorry, I had a panic attack or some weird thing happened to me in the tunnel and I'm not going to show up. I had to show up and I did. And I had a massive migraine and I kept thinking, what was that? What happened? What was going on? The woman that was doing my hair and makeup on set could tell that I was definitely not right. This was a project we'd been filming, consecutively for a couple of weeks. So she'd seen me many times and I really looked shook. And she said, what happened? Are you okay? Or you just have a headache? And I told her, and I said, I think I had a heart attack in the tunnel. And she said, no, I'm not, I don't think it's a heart attack. I think you had a panic attack. And I thought, well, what's that? I've never had that before. And she went on to explain it to me. And I thought, oh, that's so strange. Well, okay, it passed. Fine. I had a panic attack. It was a moment in time. Well, it wasn't a moment in time. As a matter of fact, that one moment set off a domino effect in my life where slowly but surely every single thing that I loved was going to disappear. I will not be able to fly, to drive, to get on a train. I couldn't even be in my apartment by myself. I had to have someone with me because I was so scared of this happening to me again. And there would be nobody there, and I would be by myself, that I was making myself crazy. I went to the hospital more times than I can tell you, and everybody said it is a panic attack. They did all the work on my heart. They looked to see the mitral valve. I went to a cardiologist. What did they do? They gave me Ativan, they gave me Klonopin, and sent me back home. I thought, hey, I could figure this out and I'm going to get past this and I'm just going to go back to life as it was. No, my life took a sharp turn and never really redirected until now. So, one of the things that I started to do was create stories that I wasn't safe. And that was something that I couldn't figure out. Why am I not safe? Right? Driving is something that I'd done God knows how long. I was a driver. I would drive through 3 states. I raced cars. My father had cars that we raced, Ferraris, Maseratis, etc. I was 100% in love with the machine. And here I am. I can't even get in the car by myself to go do what I love. This was a horrible thing for me, and it was starting to suffocate me. And it wasn't bad enough that I was already feeling a little bit trapped in my life. This was now manifesting in real time. What I didn't understand at that time was that there was a much bigger picture playing out that I didn't see and I didn't know because I didn't have the information. I didn't understand how the body works, how the mind works, but I was about to. And it took me a really long time. And when I say I went through the dark night of the soul, I went through the dark night of the soul. I have had to push through so many times that I was in a state of panic. And anyone who's ever had panic anxiety knows that we are really good at hiding it. You could be sweating and heart pounding and racing, and nobody would know because you just have this external calm that's almost otherworldly. But there I was, dealing with it in the only way I knew how, which was suffering through it. I refused to take medication. I didn't want to be on medication. I refused to do certain things like NLP and EFT. I just couldn't get myself wrapped around it. And so therapy was really the only thing that was an option for me in that way. And it worked, kind of, but not until I found the right therapist, which was CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And this is super important because cognitive behavioral therapy is about reframing the thought. And I want to really hyper focus on this because this is what Call Cut is going to do for you in real time. When I finally got with Cindy Aronson, who was my therapist, and I say her name because I owe her my life, that was when things started to change because she helped me understand panic anxiety and what it was doing in my life and how I needed to rewire the brain. And she said something to me that I will never forget and that I honestly credit with why I am here today. She said to me, Angelique, if the negative emotions and experiences in your life created this negative storyline and this state of being, doesn't it stand to reason that a positive affirmation or storyline can create its equal? Well, oh my God, the light bulbs go off in my head. I was like, if all of these negative experiences created this negative storyline, wouldn't it be true that I could rewrite this script and I could change that? Well, I talked myself out of it and I said, nope, that can't happen. I'm trapped in my life. No one's ever going to be able to help me. I'm stuck. I will never be able to drive. I have a baby. I won't be able to do the things with my baby that I want to do. This is it. This is my life. That's when I came across Joe Dispenza. And I had a couple of his books. I had Becoming Supernatural, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Now he's popping up on my Facebook feed, and there were videos and YouTube and this, and of all the things that this man talks about, this one particular video shows up on my feed. And this video was talking about depression and anxiety and how you rewire the brain by sitting in it and retraining the brain. I was mesmerized by this video. And one of the things he said that stuck with me was that most people don't see the result because it takes time to create a new neural pathway. In all honesty, we all want the instant gratification of, okay, I just did it, so I'm fixed. And he said to stick with it because the body was having a reaction and we needed the body to stop the fight or flight because the body was going into this just after years and years of being triggered. And so you couldn't get hold of it, which was essentially what was happening to me. In that moment, I said to myself, wait a minute, I can do this. It's going to be painful, but I'm stubborn and I am persistent and I want to have my freedom back. I want my life back. I want to do things with my child. So I got in the car and I'm like, okay, you're going to do this and you're going to make it happen. And whatever it is, you are going to suffer through it, but you have suffered through worse. But we are not going to stop until we rewire this brain. And I did. And it took about 3 to 4 months of consistently getting in the car, driving further and further, and having the panic attack. And God, did I have the panic attack? I pulled over several times. I didn't call the police. I didn't call the ambulance, which was my habit in the past. I sat in it. I told myself, you're safe. You're good. I would feel myself going to that place and I would quickly bring myself back. It was harder in the beginning, but man, I noticed that as I was doing this, it was getting easier and easier for me to stop the attack. All of a sudden, I was like, wait a minute, it's not continuing, or I don't feel so bad. I also noticed that I would have the attack whenever I was going somewhere, but the ride back, I wasn't having it. So I was starting to put something together in my brain and saying, well, what is the story that I am telling myself? Back to Cindy. Cindy says, it's the fear of the unknown. Well, what did I need to learn about the unknown? I had to learn that the unknown was not a safe place for me because in my life as a child, everything that was unknown was harmful to me. I had an abusive father who abandoned his family. He and my mother decided to have an ugly divorce. And I was around a lot of that trauma and a lot of that drama. I moved around all this time as a child. I moved every year in elementary school, was in a different school. I was constantly going to a place where I didn't know people. And I wasn't always welcome. As a matter of fact, it was so hard to make friends because, especially when you're a child that's living in a home that's chaotic, you don't have an energy that's very welcoming. Your energy tends to be melancholic, which is interesting because melancholy is something that I tend to suffer from more so than depression. It's not necessarily as deep. It's just kind of this overwhelming feeling that things are a little grim. The moment I understood, I feared the unknown. I saw the unknown as something dangerous that could hurt me instead of seeing the unknown as the great adventure. When I was younger, and what I mean by younger, I mean more like in my teens, I did see the unknown as my great adventure. Where that little story got twisted is when my biological father came back into my life. So this guy's gone for 13 years without a trace, without a peep, like we didn't exist, right? Shows up on the scene, all of a sudden, I'm 22 years old and he's back. Well, from 9 to 22, I had no conversation, no nothing with this man. So I had no reference point of as like who are you? What kind of person are you outside of what I knew as a child, which wasn't really the best impression. But we love our parents and kids, you know, we have that attachment to our parents. We want to know who they are. They're part of us, right? And I have this thing about forgiveness. I forgive. I let it go. But this is something that I had to grapple with in that moment. And I thought, okay, Angelique, this guy is now in your life. Well, when somebody has hit you with a lightning bolt in your life as a child, and now they're back and they want to be this really prominent piece of your life. This guy was now taking over my life. He was in charge of my finances. And by the way, I allowed all of this. So this is not something that was happening to me, but I was 22 and I thought, oh my God, my dad is back and he wants to make up for lost time. What I didn't know was this was slowly chipping away at me because the more I gave my power over to my father, the less I had it for myself. The more fear was actually building up in me because this beautiful machine we call a body, and I'm going to get choked up, wants to protect us. Okay. And it does everything in its power to do that. And unfortunately, the only way it knows how to do that is to start shutting itself down. And it shuts itself down in different ways. That's when we start to understand a little bit more about why we're having panic, why we're having anxiety, why we're having depression. And that's why understanding what your story is and how to rewrite it is how you ultimately liberate yourself from that. When I knew that fear of the unknown was the thing that was holding me back because I had given my power over to my father, and my father was still in my life at that time. Now, the man did strike lightning twice, right? So he did disappear again, which is a whole other thing. But at this moment in time, he was there. He was in my life. But I had not reconciled the fact that I didn't trust him. I felt betrayed by him and I'd never really healed that. And I was always waiting for the next betrayal. And man, was my body paying for these thoughts that were running in my subconscious and I didn't even know it. And so it manifested in this panic anxiety that just would not let up on me. It was choking the hell out of me and I couldn't do anything about it. The panic anxiety was at its peak when he was in my life, and I started to heal when he was out of it, which there is also no coincidence to that, right? I always say, and I've said this before, it's often the most deserving people who can't help but love those that destroy them. And sometimes we have to look really hard at the people who are close to us, whether it's a friend, a family member, etc., because they can be doing a lot of harm to our energy centers that we don't know. They may not even know they're doing it. They may not do it intentionally. Some may do it intentionally, but they do. And we have to learn to call cut on the idea that just because someone is family or a close friend, that we can't take them out of our life when they're becoming toxic to us. And how you know something is toxic is that you are having a reaction to it. You're sick all the time. You have migraines, you're vomiting, you're getting colds. All of these things play into your physical and mental well-being. And if they're not being taken care of because you're running these old scripts and you're acting in somebody else's best interest, but maybe not in yours, your body will react in the only way it knows how. After all this chaos and after understanding that my tormentor was someone whom I loved very, very deeply, and I was scared of that person on a level I didn't know I was scared of, and I was scared that they were going to do it again and that they were going to leave me and that they were going to abandon me, and they did. So everything I feared actually did manifest, but I didn't die. I was fine. As a matter of fact, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because once I was gone from that situation and the golden handcuffs were off, all of a sudden I had the chance to get back to me. And it took a long time to get back to me. If you are in the midst of trying to get back to yourself, don't think that it's an overnight process, friends. It's not. You have constantly got to go at this. And, that was the thing that stuck in my mind when Joe Dispenza said, you have to sit in it. You can't stop doing it. You have to keep going through it, especially when it's not comfortable, because you've got to retrain the brain to know that you are safe. You have to let the brain understand you're good and rewire that story. And man, was he right. I have flown. I drive everywhere again. I do things that I would not have done because, again, when you're in the midst of panic anxiety, I couldn't go to the movies anymore. I couldn't go to the theater. My God, I was a stage actress. The theater was my home. It still is my home. I love it. And the fact that I couldn't go to a theater to watch a show because couldn't get a seat on an aisle, there were too many people, I felt trapped, I couldn't find my way out. Oh my God, one more tick in the box of things that was really starting to suffocate me. Same with the movie theater. It was like, nope, not going to do that. Thanks. And it just one thing after another. Okay, sporting events. Oh, forget it. Sporting events weren't even a thing. I was like, nope, thank you. We're not going to do that. Hard pass on that. But eventually, when this healing started to occur, these things were coming back, and I was noticing, hey, I'm actually able to do this. Hey, that's not bothering me as much. Even hiking, I'm a kid that grew up at my aunt's house that was in the woods, and we would go into the woods and, Gen X, we're gone. We would leave the house at 6 o'clock in the morning and not come back till like 8 o'clock at night, right? And drink out of hoses, and God only knows what you were eating. Oh, it's onion grass. Yeah, sure, you could eat it. So we'd be gone all day. I loved the woods. I loved walking. I loved being alone. And because the panic anxiety suffocated me and I always thought I was going to die somewhere, I couldn't do any of that. What I noticed as I started doing the work where I was rewiring the story, stopping myself in real time, giving myself a new storyline, a new positive affirmation to counter whatever fear thought I was having, all of a sudden I wasn't nervous in situations that I was before. I went to the city to see To Kill a Mockingbird with my mother. I was pretty damn sure that when we got to the theater, I was going to have a problem, and I didn't. I couldn't believe I didn't. And it was like, is this thing on? Is this thing on? Okay. All right. And I sat there through the whole play. It was spectacular. Nothing. And I thought, oh, wow. Okay. That was one of the first things, right? The driving was going to be the biggest one. And as I said, I was actively working on the driving. I was driving anywhere and everywhere that I possibly could. But knowing that this little one just kind of healed itself and all of a sudden was an issue was giving me hope that, hey, maybe I can do this, even though it's going to be a lot harder with the driving. I think I could do this. My moment of truth came when my son had a field trip and I wanted to go. And I wasn't a chaperone because I didn't think I could do the chaperone thing yet. But they said, oh, the parents can go. The parents can go. And I thought, so I said to my husband, well, can you go with me? And he's like, no. He's like, I have to work. I can't go with you. If you want to go, you have to drive over there. And that was in Norwalk, which was probably about 15, 20 minutes from where I live. And I thought, well, all right, you've been doing this. You've been driving the back roads. You've been going back and forth. And in this driving the back roads, I did have to pull over a few times, have the panic attack, talk myself through it, get back in the car, drive to the destination. Don't turn around. Don't go home. Keep going forward. Don't turn around. Don't go home. Keep going forward. And I did this ad nauseum. So here I am. And I thought, I'm going to Norwalk. I am going to go to the aquarium and I am going to have this date with my son. We're going to do it and we're going to do it alone and we're going to go. And I got in the car and I start to drive. And I have this amazing music, which I will link in this podcast because anyone who suffers from panic anxiety should have this. I found it on YouTube of all places. And man, does this calm me down. I don't know what this is or what vibration. I couldn't even begin to tell you. I think it's either, 528 hertz. That would be my guess. But man, does this work. I put this music on and I drove. And I'm waiting for the tightening in my chest. I'm waiting for the shaking of the hands. And, my hands would shake so bad, I couldn't even hold the steering wheel. I'm waiting for my legs to shake. And when my legs would shake, like I couldn't put my foot on the gas or the brake. It was like, talk about absolutely making it impossible for yourself. Nothing happened. And I'm driving on I-95 and it's going and it's going and I'm seeing, one exit sign after another and I'm thinking, no way, no way, no way you're actually going to do this right now. No way, And I'm looking outside and it's a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day. And I was like, look at the beautiful trees and Mother Earth and how amazing. And before I know it, I'm at the exit. I'm off the exit and I'm at the aquarium. And I sat in the car crying. And I thought, holy shit, I did it. Like, I didn't have the attack. I didn't call anybody. I didn't, I wasn't scared. My body wasn't reacting. My mind, it was like nothing, nothing. Just kind of like, do. Here we are. We're just doing our thing, just like I used to be, right? And so I got out of the car. I ran into the aquarium and we had the best day. My son was about 6 at that time. We had the best day that has only been, outdone by our trip to the zoo, the Bronx Zoo, which I was a chaperone. So for me, I've always kept pushing myself, through the fear. Not the elevators, although I have gone on elevators to my dear friend's house a couple of different times. Yes, I had to hug somebody in the elevator, but I did do it. And by the way, just for reference, because I don't want to make it sound like I just absolutely never tried. I lived on the 27th floor. I lived on the 18th floor. I lived on the 8th floor and I lived on the 5th floor in high rises in Manhattan. On the 27th floor, I lived there for, 6 years. So this isn't like I didn't try. Although I will tell you, I did do 27 flights in high heels many, many times, which, my doormen were completely puzzled by. But I did it and I did live in a high rise many times without taking the stairs and having to take the elevator. So I tried to put myself in the situation. And maybe one day I will call cut on that stupid story and I will change it and I will be riding in elevators all day, every day. But for right now, I am happy to have used the technique to get past everything else in my life that has held me back. And here's how it works. Anytime you are in a situation where your mind starts to tell you a story, for example, you go to a coffee shop and somebody comes in and they bump you, and you instantly get angry. And they're like, whoa, and now they retaliate. You guys are going back and forth. Well, if you've ever read anything by Abraham and Hicks, they talk about the 17 seconds that it takes to drop a frequency. So now that you're even more angry, you drop lower and lower and lower. Now you're stuck in this lower vibrational energy. So have you ever heard people say things like, oh, hey, yeah, I went to the coffee shop today and I got into a fight with so and so. And then I got into my car and I got stuck in traffic. And then when I got to my desk, there was no email and I was waiting for this email. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen because you have now called in everything on that lower vibrational frequency. There's lower vibrational energies and there's higher vibrational energies. So when you're sad, you're depressed, you're upset, or you're angry, you're actually vibrating at a lower, slower energy. Everything that vibrates on this same level, you match that frequency, and then that frequency pulls everything into your reality on that level. And because energy moves in a circle or a spiral, right? And which is where you get what goes around comes around. You've heard that. We've all heard it. That is actually the path or the flight path, if you will, of energy. So when someone says, well, what goes around comes around, yeah, it does. Because energy moves in a circle and a spiral. So we go up and down and we go back and forth, and we go back and forth between a polarity spectrum, right? So we know that we have the negative and the positive, right? The yin and the yang, and the law of duality says that we experience both in this particular realm. And that's important to know because you have to know that the negative is just as important to your story as the positive, and not to really write it off as being something inherently bad. What Call Cut does is it says, no, I am not going to go to that level. I'm going to rise above. So same scenario, you walk in, you're in a coffee shop and somebody, bumps you, Rather than reacting, you stop and think about it. Do I really care that this person bumped into me? Like, do I need to? What is the story behind that? Because if you think about it, people always push me around. I'm not your this, I'm not your that. No, someone bumped into you. That is the reality. That is what happened in real time. There is no story behind it. It's not because they don't like you. It's not because you have a weird face and they don't like your face. It's because they bumped into you. They may not have seen you. They were on their phone. They're in their own world. We have to remember that 90% of people that interact with you during the day that are not your friends or your family or your coworkers, they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about them. They're thinking about their lives. They are hyper focused in their own world and their own energy. And so, why would you want to lower your vibe to match somebody's energy that you're never going to see again? Right? Instead, you say to yourself, let it go. It's not about me. It's fine. Whatever. They bumped into you. They bumped into you. I stop and think about this delicious chai latte that I'm going to get. I say, oh, wow, you know what? This is going to be great. I'm going to get to the end of the counter and I'm going to have my chai and then I'm going to go for a walk and then I'm going to, and before you know it, my energy is lifting and lifting and lifting. And suddenly I feel super, super positive. And no matter what happened, doesn't affect you, right? These are conscious choices that we make every single minute, every single day. And you have the power to rewrite this story. When I tell you you have the power to heal panic anxiety, you absolutely do. Don't listen to anyone who tells you, well, this is it, you're stuck with it, you have a disorder. I was told I had panic anxiety disorder, and on the surface, they were correct. And I am telling you, I do not have it like that anymore. Does it come and go? Of course it's going to come and go. But I have the power because I know that I can rewrite the story. When you know that you are the master alchemist, that you are the master creator, the co-creator of your own story, I can't tell you how powerful you feel, but you have to get to the point where you know it. And that is where this work comes in, where you have to do it every single day, calling cut, no matter how many times you're up against it or you feel a trigger, call cut on that trigger. You feel yourself getting angry, call cut on it. You can rewrite this story in real time. And you can do it over and over and over again. And friends, I am going to tell you, you will wake up one day and the stuff that bothered you won't affect you and you will not believe it. You will be like, wow, you know what? That used to get me so upset and I just don't give a shit right now. It just doesn't bother me. It's not affecting me. It's literally not penetrating. You have elevated your energetic field. You have lifted it so high that those lower vibrational energies do not affect you. That is the magic of this method. And this method can be combined with other things that you're doing. Go to therapy, keep taking courses, go to Mind Valley, learn about energetics. Like they have some great teachers there that really get into it. If you need medication, take medication because it does help for people. Whatever you need to do, you can do this with anything. Okay. And I'm going to take you each episode deeper, deeper, deeper into the energetics behind the call cut method, and also to show you how this thing called reality works so that you can align yourself with your highest potential. And you have to be energetically prepared. You have to be strong. You have to understand your power. And most of us don't understand our power. So the next time we are going to talk about alchemizing energy for your highest power, which is part of this method, is to learn how to do that so you can elevate, 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 and continue to elevate in a way that's for your perfect health and well-being. It doesn't harm anybody. You're not hurting anyone. You're just elevating your space and neutralizing your energy so that you are in control of your emotions and your reactions. And when you are in control of your emotions and reactions, you become the master of your universe. Thank you for joining me on Call Cut with Angelique. New episodes drop every Friday, so please come back and join us. We have some incredible guests. We're going to talk about some incredible topics, and we would love to have you here. If this content resonates with you, like, subscribe, and share to anyone that you think would enjoy it. Remember, life is a story, and it plays out as a movie. You are the director. You are the writer. Make it a good one. Always keep shining.